Hey, my name is TJ. I'm a person in long-term recovery. For me, that means I have not had a drink or a drug since August 9th, 2016. I'm here today with...
Dave Ogden. I'm a counselor down in Groton and Grasso Tech, and I'm here, I guess, to talk about my story.
You got an amazing story.
Yeah.
So I met you like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think our relationship has truly developed through a lot of the work we do, and I think we've made a really good connection. Yeah. And I want you to kind of tell a little bit about your story and your experience today, and then we'll kind of connect on some other stuff going on. Yeah. So tell me about life growing up.
Well, so it's been a difficult childhood. I made it through. My mom was not in my life very, very much. In fact, I didn't see her much. I saw her on weekends and whatnot, but she wasn't involved a lot. My father was a poet and wrote some really good poetry. But I started, the first time I got high was in sixth grade.
Okay.
It was presented to me. I got high. I laughed, had a great time. It was a super experience for me. And then I got sent away to some college, to some high schools, and went to Watkinson School for a couple of years, and smoked a lot in the smoking areas and things like that. Then they sent me away to New Hampshire, and in New Hampshire I went to a really wonderful school. It's a beautiful school, but they use a lot of LSD at that school. And
okay.
There was probably 120 kids in the class in the school itself, and on any given night we'd have 100 kids tripping on LSD. So yeah, it was a big deal. And we had competitions, between schools to who could do more. So it was a crazy time. I did that. I got kicked out of that school and went back to the regular high school. Got kicked out of that school, for dumb things and stupid things, and not really wanting to be there. And then my father brought me to Italy, and that guy actually saved my life. The principal, the headmaster there, he basically gave me a choice. Why don't you come into the school, and if you don't like coming to school, then you can leave. So it gave me a choice to come in, and I came and I stayed. And I still did a lot of drugs going through high school, but it was starting to ebb away.
Yep.
And then I went to college and met my wife, and she really changed my life quite a bit. We then got married, had a kid. I started really slowing down, and then once I had the kid, it was like, that's it. There's no more. And I didn't do any drugs whatsoever, pretty much, or alcohol. I drank once in a while, but it wasn't like, all the time, just, I got to drink every weekend or every month. It was very sporadic. And I believed that I had the answer.
Yep.
I really believe that, what my experiences in high school, gave me the strength to really do good things, in the community. So I became a guidance counselor because of that.
Yeah, it's amazing, dude.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I became a school counselor. And for 30 years, I've been doing that. And, I've seen a lot. The high schools, you see a lot of stuff. And, after COVID, in 2018, my son died in a car accident. You get a knock on the door, and you get a knock on the door I got a knock on the door at like 3 a.m. And it was very painful. It was the state police. And we were just waking up out of our slumber of sleeping. And they said, you got to go identify a body. And it was probably the hardest things I've ever heard in my life. And I didn't understand it. I was still sleeping. I fell over. I landed on the ground. We had to drive by the accident to go, and it was difficult. We had me, my wife, Aaron, my son, driving by the accident, and to witness the car and the devastation on that road. It was very hard.
Yeah.
And then the police officer from there. That police officer there, brought me. We stopped there, and he said, "Yeah, you got to go to the hospital." So we went to the hospital in Middletown, and we had to identify him, and it was the hard thing to deal with. And then they put me on Xanax, and I probably needed it. I needed to function in some way, so I guess they put me on it, and that's what happened. And I started taking Xanax, and I didn't take it so like I needed to go steal Xanax or not. I took it, like I had enough. My drug dealer, I guess it would be called, from the pharmacy. So the pharmacy was able to provide me the Xanax, and my doctor provided me the means. So I started struggling with that. So I would start to take a few more extra pills, before I went to bed.
Yep.
And so I got up to 3, maybe 4, maybe 5 milligrams a night, which I guess, I don't know, compared to other people, good or bad or indifferent. But for me, it was a lot. And I was on that for about, 2 years, 3 years, every single day, just trying to get to work. My school saved my life, first of all. And they without them, I don't think I would be here today.
Yep.
The administration, the faculty just really saved my life. So they put me on, and then one day, it was a Thursday. It was in March, and I decided to quit Xanax. So I'm gonna be cold turkey. So
no idea about what exactly is going on.
Have no idea what that meant for Xanax.
Yep.
No, 100%. Now, the difference for me, growing up when I was doing all those drugs and everything, I felt I could control all that stuff.
Yep.
And I did in some ways. But when I got on Xanax, I realized a difference. I realized what addiction was.
You physically needed Xanax.
It was bad for me.
Yes.
I couldn't sleep. I couldn't think. I couldn't rest. It was the thing that got me through the night to get me up to the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And after 2 to 3 years of that, the physical dependence is really serious.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was, for me, it was.
Yeah.
It was a lot for me.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
So tell me about that coming off. Tell me about that day.
Well, it was a Thursday. I said, I'm going to go cold turkey. And I didn't even know what that meant for Xanax. And so I did. I went cold turkey. And first night, I twitched a little bit. Wasn't too bad. I didn't sleep well, but I twitched a little bit. And second night, I went to school the next day. And then that Friday night, I twitched it a little bit more. And then I started to sweat. And then I'm like, oh, man, maybe this is it. Maybe tonight's it. And then this is the withdrawals, and I'm going to move on. Saturday night rolled along, and I'm twitching a lot. And my muscle spasms are like, my body was like, just twitching. And my mind started to not think clearly and all kinds of weird things. So I'm like, oh, what's going on with me? There's something really happening. And I started to sweat more. And then Sunday night rolled around, and everything was falling apart then. Like, it was just, I started Googling what the hell's going on with me, because I was terrified.
Yeah.
So I Googled it, and I learned a lot about the brain and GABAs or whatever that stuff is and whatnot. But, and then Monday rolled around. We had a snow day.
Okay.
We had about 2 feet of snow, or whatever it was, 1.5 feet of snow here. So there was a snow day, my school. So I was snow blowing my driveway, and I smelled burnt oil and burnt things, like burnt wires, And so I'm like, oh, what's this? I just fixed my what's it called, my snow blower, and why is it smelling this way? It shouldn't smell this way. So I'm like, I'm gonna go take a shower. I'm sweating the whole time, and I'm really starting to freak out. So I get in the shower, and I smell the same burnt stuff coming from the shower. I'm like, this stuff is crazy. What's going on? So I open the window, and snow's blowing in on me, and I'm completely, under the weather, sweating and everything, and the smell wouldn't go away. So I called my son up, Scott, my son down in Staten Island, and he says, you're probably having seizures in your brain, and you need to get to the hospital, because it sounds like you're having seizures. So I said, all right. So I went to the hospital, and they said, you're definitely going through withdrawals, and there's some serious stuff going on. So they immediately put me inpatient. They gave me some medicine, and they shipped me off to Middletown. Of course, that's where I had to identify my son. So there's all kinds of weird things with that too. But yeah, so they put me on some medicine. I end up at the Middletown Hospital, and I don't really remember much. They had IVs. They were shoving up my arm there, and I have it on this one. And I was sitting there. I remember this. I don't really remember much, but I remember this. I was on the phone talking to my wife. He said, you got to get me the fuck out of here. I don't know where these guys with blue gloves are everywhere, and they're coming after me. Because I was getting paranoid now. Like, I didn't know where I was. I was confused. I was in my head. I didn't know up or down. I didn't know who I was. I really was it was the most unbelievable experience I've ever experienced. Like, I didn't have control of me. It was weird.
Yeah.
And so I got really paranoid. I was talking to my wife, and you got to get me the hell out of here. So I ripped out my IV, just ripped it out, and I ran down the hall. I remember, and I tried jumping out the window because I didn't know what was going on. So I looked for a window, and I'm like, go after the window. So I did, and I landed, and the window didn't break, thankfully. And I landed there, and of course, they grabbed me, the guys with the blue gloves. Maybe there's some women, too. Yeah, they got their gloves on. They snapped them on. And they grabbed me, and they shoved the IV on the other arm. I think the IV all the way into my heart, because they didn't let that one out. They wrapped the thing tight. It was staying in there, yeah. And then I don't remember anything. Like, I don't, literally.
They put you out.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I remember my mom came in the next day, Tuesday. And she was in a wheelchair. I could see her face, and I can see her reach out to me and her smile, and that's all I really remember for the whole week. And then Thursday morning happened, and I woke up, and the guy, the doctor came in, and I remember I wasn't strapped down then. I was strapped down the whole week, I guess, but I wasn't strapped down then. And he said, "Who's the president of the United States?" And I said, "I don't know, some guy with a red hat." So I didn't know, but he knew that I was thinking that my brain was coming back.
Yes.
So they released me, and the next day I was back in school doing PPTs and IEPs and all kinds of important things.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's kind of what happened, and yeah, that was tough.
Withdrawal is some weird stuff, dude. I've been through detox multiple times. I've never had the hallucination stuff because I've never ran on benzos long enough or anything like that. But I've had experiences where I've helped people, and like I helped this guy, and he went to a detox and was starting to have like stuff going on down there. So they sent him to the hospital. I'm calling him, talk to him, have a totally normal conversation.
Yep.
And one of the things at the end of the conversation, he goes, "Yeah, it's a really nice hospital. I like it down here." He goes, "They just can't get the bugs out of my room." I'm like, "What bugs?" He goes, "There's these gnats everywhere, you know.
They're coming after me, or they're under the bed."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's pretty crazy. And then, so you just jump right back into normal life, huh?
Well, it's a strange experience. I mean, the whole week was insane. I mean, it really was. I mean, I understood. You know what's interesting? Wednesday night, Thursday morning, when I started coming out of this, I felt like a burden had been gone. Like something happened while I was asleep, where the feel, that need, that anxiety, that pain, whatever it was, had been lifted, and
Wow.
that doesn't mean I was ready to manage my life well, but it was the beginning of that.
Yeah.
I still drank a little bit after that. You know, and I had some trouble with that, a little bit with that, not too much. And I went to EMDR therapy after that.
Nice.
And I think it didn't make me happy, but it made me put my feet down and walk through the door.
That's really, really good. It changed your life a little bit.
EMDR therapy was one of those things I think that really let me put my feet on the ground.
Yeah, it helped you reprocess the trauma in your life.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a big thing. It's a big thing nowadays.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing with people and trauma and addiction recovery, right? A lot of people experience trauma, and you know, their answer to that is substance use. And like the thing is because trauma makes your brain work a certain way, and it's the consistent fight or flight. And when you find these substances, it takes you out of fight or flight, right? Like it's able to shut the brain off,
Right.
you know, and go through what you're going through. So tell me about your experience with Students for Recovery. How did it all start up?
Yeah, so, you know, for me, you know, like, again, you know, when I was growing up, the drugs that I went through, I've always known that high school kids, we all did, you know, there's always been around. It's we can say it's never, but it is.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so I've always known that. That's why I went into school counseling, is I wanted to help people, you know, go through their traumas of life and just try to support people so that when they get to the other side, they can then make good decisions.
Yeah.
So to support them as they go through their traumas, I guess you'd call it. So after this, I said, okay, after going through that experience at the hospital and that whole world, I started doing EMDR therapy. You know, I started to in some way get connected with you, and I have to say, for you, TJ, and CCAR has really changed my life. This whole experience with CCAR and meeting you and the support that you've given me in the last 3 years, or 4 years, 5 years, you know, especially with some of the things, you know, I had to still work through.
Yes.
There was a lot of crap that I had to deal with for a couple of years, and I'm still working through it. It's not over.
Well, recovery is a never-ending process, right? It's not and it's also not, recovery's not a linear process, right?
Messing.
Yeah, so some people think like all of a sudden, like I get sober or I find recovery and then like my life in a time-oriented way is like going to get better as time goes on. And it's like not necessarily the thing, right? Like sometimes people's lives get worse before they get better, or sometimes people do great for years and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, I need to experience the, you know.
Yep. And so Student for Recovery kind of was born from all of these experiences for me. You know, it was born through, you know, the loss of my son and the loss of, and that's very painful. It's very painful now. And, you know, I still have those, like, I got to get out of here, you know, mentality. I need peace. I got to find peace somehow, you know, so that I can put my feet on the ground to walk another day.
Yeah.
So I'm always constantly, I hiked every day. Like every single day I was hiking with my dog. So that was another piece of this recovery for me. It was hiking every single day and then going to EMDR therapy. And then really, out of COVID, when we started to meet, we talked.
Yeah.
And we were like, well, I'd like to do something with the seniors, and maybe we can do something with the seniors, and maybe you could share your story. And you did. You came to our school, Grasso, and shared your story. I got up there, as well as the other faculty member at Grasso.
Yeah.
I mean, there was 10 people up there, and everybody had a story. Every faculty member and you had a story, and we shared that to the senior class.
We made connections, direct connections made out of that.
Yeah.
Like 2 weeks later, school ended.
Yeah.
And they were doing summer school for seniors, and you guys called me right up with seniors, young seniors who just graduated, 18 years old, strung out on Percocet.
Yeah.
Hey, what do I do? Like, I'm trying to graduate high school, and it's like, boom, here's some resources. Come on down, get some support, right? Like, there's a lot of positive things born from that.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we have to do more. There's no doubt about it.
It also allowed us to look at something specific, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times kids come into school, they're high, they use drugs, whatever, and our first inkling is to suspend them. Right? And it's like, why though? Suspend them for what, right? For substance use? And suspending them makes the problem worse, right? Let's take a kid who feels isolated already by society.
Right.
And let's punish them for that, right? Let's take them out of that. Like, why aren't we looking at this in a different way, right? Why aren't we embracing them and saying, hey, this happened. Right. Like, what could we do to help?
That's right. Well, and that's where the Students Recovery was born, right out of that premise, is that we want to do something different. Because I've seen for my whole life, it's always been, isolate a person from school and, okay, that's good. But there was forgiveness back then. When I got kicked out of school, the next year they said, come back. Now it's like, it's a bit different. When they get kicked out of school, it's like, we don't want you back. And there's in my opinion, a profound difference. That, there were still problems back then, but there was forgiveness back then. And they allowed me to come back into that world a little bit different. But that's kind of where students, and then after that year, we did that senior presentation, and there were a couple of kids that summer that reached out, and I think it does help.
Yes.
So we're inviting you back again this year.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
To do that senior if you get a chance.
I would love to do that.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely, one of the things that I look at it, right, is that like for me, like being a younger person, right, DARE and all that kind of stuff was never effective.
Yep.
Right. I don't want to scare people.
Right.
What I really want to do is make a connection, right?
Yep.
I want to, one of the things I lead with is like, hey, listen, like there's nothing I can do to stop anybody in this room from using substances.
You can't, right.
What I want to do is that, look to your right, look to your left, like one of these people may need help someday.
Right.
And you're sitting there stuck in the middle, and it's like, well, what can I do to support you so that way you don't die from fentanyl?
That's right.
Right? And
dangerous shit.
And that's the idea of it. And like, what is recovery?
Mm-hmm.
And what does it look like?
Yeah.
And what can I do to support that person in or seeking recovery? Yeah. Right? And like a lot of that stuff comes from Recovery Coach Academy, which is based on personal experience.
Yeah. And, I through my experience with you and with the experience with some of the colleges that are out there, UConn had a recovery-friendly school. Yeah. And I want, if I could ever make before I retire, make our school a more recovery-friendly school. Not that, I think we're addicted to all kinds of crap. So it's not just alcohol and drugs. There's gambling, there's phones, there's everything. So we have to look at what we're doing to ourselves a little bit. So that's where, a recovery-friendly school, what I'd like to see happen is a recovery-friendly school where we support those people that are going through it.
Yes.
Balanced with the prevention, of say no, that kind of balance of both things. And so the next year we met, right?
Yep.
And we had a core bunch of kids. They all wanted to be a part. They had probably 10 or 15 young people. I don't want to mention their names because it would divulge some confidentiality, but, they're super kids.
But they had experiences in recovery, right? They were passionate about recovery, right? And they were in a setting where it's like, hey, I'm 18, I'm about to go off into this world, right?
Yeah.
And what does that look like? Yeah. And I've had these experiences, mom and dad and things going on in our life, and what can I do to grow here, right?
Right.
And that kind of was born out to Recovery Fest.
It did. Yep. And those 5 or 10 kids, they really took this by the bull by the horn, I guess you'd call it, and
yes,
and made it happen. It's really them. I heard out of COVID that these kids wanting a voice. I had like
Yes.
50 to 100 kids wanting to do something and say things. We narrowed it down to like 10 or 15 kids. And then, we hooked them up with you. You came in and talked about all the different recovery, avenues, how to, the recovery, whatever works, try to use it.
Yeah.
And all that world.
And you guys put on a huge event with hundreds of people and put a real big face on recovery, provided,
Fest, yeah.
and like brought like all the different resources in the community together,
Yep.
and allowed people to come through and gather resources from resource tables. You had a lot of great speakers.
Yep.
Too,
Yep.
you know what I mean? A lot of politicians and a lot of political support,
Yep.
a lot of public support as well. People were like, "Wow, this is great," and it allowed everybody to put a face on recovery, right? And
Yeah. Well, at least to have the conversation, because the three tenets of our group is, awareness, support, and advocacy.
yes,
And so these are the words that the kids came up with: awareness, support, and advocacy. And the first step was awareness, which the recovery was awareness, and to support
Yes.
those who suffer. So that was the first step, with it. And then we did it again the next year. So we had 2 full years of Recovery Fest. CCAR was part of this whole experience.
Oh, yeah.
So was Community Speaks Out. Tammy Dela Cruz has been an integral part of everything.
Yep.
And then GASP, Carolyn Wilson has been a tremendous asset for. So us working together collaboratively, really, I hope, have changed at least brought awareness to the issues that are going on to really try to make change. I don't even know what the change means. I don't even know I don't have the answers to these things because, high school kids are so different than adults, and you have so many rules that you have to follow. And so for me, we need a conversation. And the only way to get the answers is if we have a conversation, and we can't be blinded by our own ego to say, hey, listen, I have truth, follow me. We need to listen to one another. And that's where truth comes, and that's where we're having the voice of the students is coming out, the Students for Recovery.
And I think you guys definitely did, right? And I look at a lot of things, right? And it's like, what is the change that I made in the world, and what is that exactly like?
Yeah.
Right? And you look at that, and it's like, well, did I pick when I got here? Yeah. Did I make this place a little bit better by the time I leave it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And right? Like we made that,
Yeah.
If we've made change in one person's life, everything is worth it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
And I have to think that way because it's hard.
If one more person gets to live one more day because of the work that we do, it is worth it.
It's worth it. You're right.
It's the same thing. When we have this podcast, right? If we change one person's perspective on recovery, right? And put that face on recovery and share experience. Yeah. That makes the world better. That makes one person more tolerable to others and supportive towards others. Yeah.
And the kids, I've worked with these high school kids for 30 years now, and they all have stories.
Oh yeah.
All you got to do is spend the time. And to spend the time, you need the resources.
Yes.
All of that crap, So, if my opinion, if they want to solve this problem, it's give us more support, give us the tools. You can't build a house without a hammer.
Yes.
You gotta have a hammer to build a house. You need some nails too. So let's build it. Let's do it right.
Yeah.
Because there's too much pain. I've seen too much. I've seen when I grew up, my friends died, and I'm still seeing people dying now. So I don't know much difference of death. Even with all the rules that we have about this, that, and the other thing, I'm still seeing death. Because when I grew up, there was still death. I don't necessarily think we're better. In fact, I would say we've gone the other way in some respects. And fentanyl's a nasty drug. It's a nasty thing.
You guys found fentanyl in your school.
I believe so. Yeah, that happened, I think, last year. And so this is prevalent everywhere. You know, and it's an important thing to address, I think, and figure better ways to help people. And again, I don't have these answers, but there needs to be honest conversations.
Yes. And I think we came to a point where we can't arrest our way out of a problem, right? And we can't, we've learned a lot of this through, experience, right? People get arrested or get in trouble, then they start using the first day out. That was the thing in Vietnam. If you got caught with heroin, you used to do 5 years in a work camp. And then when you got caught again, you do 10 years in a work camp. Right? And you would think that somebody who gets caught with heroin and spends 5 years in a hard labor camp, the first thing they do when they get out is use heroin. Right? Yeah. Right? Because it's not treating the addiction, right? Addiction is a mental illness. Addiction is a disease. And if you don't treat the disease, there is no results, right? It's kind of like having cancer. Chemo and all these other things are prescribed, and it's like, no, we're just gonna, we're just gonna whatever, and then people die of cancer. It's like, well, why didn't they get better? It's like, well, no, they didn't get treatment for cancer.
It's the same thing, really. We shame a lot of our people that struggle, and I'm sick of that shit. So it just angers me a lot. I think we need to get beyond all that crap and start to realize we're just human beings in this planet. Stop putting labels on each other, saying you're left, you're right, you're up, you're down, whatever it is. We need to understand we're just a bunch of human beings doing the best we can. And if we can get to that awareness, then maybe we can try to really help one another.
Yes.
Instead of saying, it's a moral weakness. Yeah. Instead of a physical weakness. It's instead of a disease weakness, that we need to treat it not as a moral weakness, to more of it's just regular. A regular weakness, But it's been tough, tough.
It's something people experience in life.
It is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, right now, everybody's vaping, everybody's doing, things. They're doing it in class. It's just everywhere. And, many kids, they're all good kids. Every one of these kids are super kids, people that I work with, But I would like to see change. I'd like to see, before I retire, people getting together and really trying to address this and allowing people the freedom to speak their minds openly without fear of retribution. Like if I say, hey, I believe this, I believe in harm reduction. Let's just pretend. I believe in harm reduction. All right, so can we bring that to the table? And does that, maybe it's not something we want to look at. We just need to put these ideas that are out there on the table so that we can then really take a look at what can we do.
Yes.
And getting the parents involved is important. In an honest way, not you can't do drugs, but some way in which to really listen to the parents and the concerns that they have. Yeah. And to try to address their issues so that we can help them.
Absolutely.
So
if you had to give support and advice, encouragement for somebody new in recovery, what would that be?
Don't give up. Put your feet on the ground and keep walking, and connect to those folks that it's fucking hard, man. And when you do if you do make a mistake or you struggle, I would say don't give up.
Yep.
Just don't give up. You gotta be there. And you gotta find a purpose. You gotta have some kind of reason. For me, my reason after my son died was, and even before that, was to help my family. To make sure I don't lose another, but also, to make sure that, I'm doing everything I can in the community. So I took a lot of that pain and trying to do something good with it, and try to change people's perception. Because, you get to my age, it doesn't really matter, like what matters is making change and doing good stuff with that change.
Absolutely.
And sometimes I think when you're younger, you don't want your voice being heard, so that you don't say anything, and then we don't understand that perspective, and then we don't grow. So we need to allow the kids some voices, and the ability to be heard in a genuine way. But how do you break down those barriers? And I don't know how to break those barriers down between student and faculty or whatever it is.
One day at a time.
Yeah, one day at a time. Yep. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Last year we tried to do the play for Community Speaks Out, called I Am More, and I'm not much of a theater guy, so it failed.
Okay.
So that's why we're doing the Recovery Fest again this year, and I hope it goes well. I hope it's well. I'd like to get Narcan training there, and if we can figure out that. I know Sarah has talked to us about it.
Of course.
So, but I'd like to try to really. I'm going to retire in another year or so, and I, if I could leave the place a little bit better, as you said before, it's worth it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So, it's about where I'm at.
Well, thank you very much, dude, for coming on. You're amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's been quite the life.
Yeah. It really
life.
has.
Yeah, I've learned a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the Xanax, going through that experience with Xanax was it was hell. It was just a hell. The body, the way your body just reacts to that. And the need, it's like nothing mattered except, in the withdrawal. I mean, even that was the hardest part. It was easy to keep taking it. It's easy to, okay, it's just one more. Okay, that calmed me down, so I'm good. So now the next thing you know, you're taking another one, and then another one to do the same thing. you know. I think we just got to be careful of who we prescribe things to too. Like, yeah, it was difficult. We go to the doctor to say, let's get off of the stuff, and they really don't have a solution.
Yeah.
For me, it was It was like, yeah, take half a milligram instead of a full, and do that for a month. And I'm like, no way. Not me. I'm doing it cold turkey.
Yep.
Yeah, because I thought I was a man or whatever you want to call it. I thought I could handle it, and I couldn't. It's too much.
I don't think anybody can necessarily handle it after using Xanax daily for multiple years, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it has anything to do with anything, you know?
Well, that's happened to me, and now I still have memory problems. Even now, I'm having a hard time recalling things and getting the words that I want to that's in here out correctly, because I think it's affected my brain. On top of COVID, on top of these other fucking things, goes on a fucking life. But,
yeah.
But yeah, you're welcome to come down to the Recovery Fest again.
I definitely will be there.
It'll be nice. It'll be good stuff. And then if you want to do a senior presentation or help us facilitate something like that, you know, that we would love to have you guys down here, somebody down here for that.
I'm around for that.
Good.
Let's do it.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Of course. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. And again, TJ, you really are somebody that saved part of the saving of me.
Thank you.
You and the people here. I don't know. You know, it's just been a hell of a ride. It's been a hell of a ride. And I think I'm in a better state now. My family's in a better state now. And, you know, I'm hoping for the best. But I think in the time after Josh died to the time that there were Students for Recovery came around, I was going through a lot. And you really were instrumental when I was going through something that I could call you up. So I need some help.
Yeah.
And you guided me. And what I didn't want to hear, whatever I wanted to hear, but it was good in those moments because I had somebody to reach out to.
Of course.
And I think you do need someone to be able to reach out to.
Yes.
Yeah. And you were that guy.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, appreciate you too.
And I'm glad you're doing okay.
Yeah, doing better.
Yes.
So.
Cool.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.